Some people would say that the crisis of belief is simply a crisis of teaching, of catechesis. Catechesis is important, but the church hierarchy that I hear talk about this issue seem to always come back to catechesis, but they don't want to mention liturgy. So how important do you see, reverent traditional liturgy in people coming back to the church?
It's 98% of the question, because the Latin phrase lex orandi, lex credendi, there's no way we will believe rightly if we don't worship rightly. The two support each other, but it begins with the liturgy. So the way we worship is the way we believe. There's no question about that. And the evidence is all around us because we've had catechetical programs. We have a catechism now it's a fine book, but it has no effect on ordinary Catholics if they're worshiping incorrectly. So the very first thing we need to do is reform the liturgy, to go back to the liturgical principles that have always obtained in the church. Then everything else will follow. Mother Teresa often said, if your prayer life is right, the rest of your life will be perfectly all right. By prayer life, she meant interior prayer, but also liturgical prayer. I give retreats to Mother Teresa's sisters around the world, and so I see a lot of different expressions of Mother Teresa's charism. But during the convulsions, the liturgical problems after the Vatican Council, she never missed a beat. Now, didn't miss a beat in the sense that she maintained the essential principles of the liturgy, which were God-centered liturgy rather than human. Priests would come in and maybe ad lib on certain things that were not permissible. They wouldn't be invited back. And Mother Teresa had a simple faith and prayed in a simple way. But what she says applies to the question. If your prayer life is authentic and orthodox, then everything else will be orthodox.
I wonder if that sounds a little too simplistic. That at this parish, Star of the Sea, you're starting to restore tradition, and you're offering Latin Mass and Novus Ordo in a very traditional, reverent way. So how is that the case that Lex Orandi, Lex Credendi at this parish? How have you seen it influence the parish?
A simple thing like receiving kneeling on the tongue is changing people's understanding of the faith. It's making their understanding more orthodox. And I encourage people to kneel and receive on the tongue. This is the proper way to receive our Lord. So kneeling is a physical action of prostrating ourselves, and once you get into that habit, without even knowing it, you are beginning to believe that there is a God and I am not He. Because most people coming to Mass don't know that. Most of us don't know that, and we all struggle with that, to create idols in our lives, starting with ourselves. But if I'm kneeling to receive the Eucharist, I begin to believe in the real presence of the Eucharist, simply by that physical act. And so with all, or the Mass, the way it's done in the traditional form, there was a family I knew that they were converts, another parish. They didn't like the Latin Mass. We had both, of course, in that parish, and so they wouldn't come to the Latin Mass. And once in a while, they would come because of scheduling, and a light bulb went off in the mother's mind at one point. She has 4 children and a husband, and she said, it's about control. I realize now that in the Novus Ordo, I'm in control, or the priest is in control, or we are in control of the liturgy. But in the Latin Mass, I don't know what's going on a lot of the time. And it's clear that I'm not in control, but there is someone in control because it is so perfect. The rubrics and the execution of the liturgy is flowing in a way that, in an orderly way, that helps me to believe that there is someone in control of the church, and it's not me. So they converted to Latin Mass after that.